Welcome everybody to the Short Sports Show. I'm your host Daniel Short. Today is Monday, September 8th, 2014. And NFL Week 1 provided us with some surprising upsets. We're going to talk about that, including tonight's doubleheader for Monday Night Football. Also gave us a lot of injuries to key players and how those teams are going to react to those injuries, and that's including the number one pick in this year's draft. But first, we will talk about some college football games. And wow, weren't they crazy? Let's start with number 1, Florida State going against Citadel. And Jameis Winston had this in the book, and I think everybody knew that Florida State was going to get this victory. But to make it, the final score is 37-12, and all 12 points for Citadel coming in the last quarter. I don't know. I feel like Florida State is showing, maybe it's not the top team that it was last year. Now, they had some key guys going to the NFL draft and graduation last year. But I just feel like if this is the number 1 team that's contending for the national championship, that's supposed to be in, the number 1 seed, and has the Heisman reigning guy at quarterback, 37-12 against a Citadel team, I don't know. I feel like that maybe that should have been a 56-12 or something like that. It just looks a lot closer than what it should be. But moving on, number 2, Alabama takes on Florida Atlantic. And poor Florida Atlantic, they have played some very, very tough squads. And their defense has been suffering. They played Nebraska last week. 2 weeks ago. And it was 55-7. Then they play Alabama and lose 41-0. They're 125th in points against and 126th in points for with 3.5, and their points against is 48 points they allow per game. Not good stats wise, but anyways, the main game that was on Saturday night was number 7 Michigan State and number 3 Oregon, and going into the first half, a 24-18 game for Michigan State. Connor Cook looked like he was just an absolute pro out there. Being very accurate and making smart decisions. But Oregon's offense just proved it was too much for even a Michigan State defense. End up winning the game 46-27, scoring 14 points in the third and the fourth. And the Oregon receivers just blew by Michigan State's defense. It's something I've never seen. We've always seen Michigan State with their stout defense being able to control even top offenses to very, about 20 points at the most. And, last season we saw in the Big Ten championship game when they took on Ohio State and spread offense, Braxton Miller, top wide receivers there, and they held them down. Oregon doesn't have, the big pro-sized, wide receivers that Ohio State had, but they got the speedy guys, and that was obviously enough to get by Michigan State for the victory. And it looks like Oregon is the real number 1 team here. I think they're better than Alabama. Alabama, yes, they played a Florida Atlantic team, but that doesn't matter. And Alabama struggled against the West Virginia team. They only won 4 games last season. Florida State struggled against Oklahoma State, and I'm not going to say they struggled against Citadel, but it's a lot closer than what it should have been. Oregon's the only team that just dominated a top 10 team, and it's showing that its offense cannot be stopped against one of the top defenses in college football. So Oregon that's my case for number 1, even though they will not get it. I'm sure they will move to number 2. Number 4, Oklahoma going against Tulsa, and they win 52-7. This game was never close. It was 31-0 at halftime. So Sterling Shepard and Trevor Knight just dominate that game all types of way on that offense. Number 5, Auburn took on San Jose State, and Auburn did it again, 59-13. Virginia Tech and number 8 Ohio State went at it, and of course, I told you Virginia Tech was going to get the job done. Ohio State is just not that team without Braxton Miller. JT Barrett is just not ready. He's not ready. This is going to be a great learning lesson right now, And I know Ohio State fans, I know that sucks to hear, but this is just not your year. And for the Big Ten, it was just not their week, actually. Have Michigan State losing, Ohio State, and I believe a few other teams that we'll talk about just a little bit. But Virginia Tech goes on the road, and Michael Brewer, I think he's a legit quarterback that no one's really talking about. I know he had an interception in that game, but he was doing very, very well. So Virginia Tech, I'm trying to get to the stats here. Yeah, Michael Brewer's 23 of 36, 199 yards, and a touchdown. Or excuse me, 2 touchdowns. And that was enough. And then J.T. Parrott just had terrible interceptions. He was 9 for 29, 219 yards, a touchdown, and I believe 2 interceptions. That's just not going to get the job done, no matter who you play. It showed against Navy last week that you almost got beat against Navy after you had the entire offseason to prepare for them. And then you go against Virginia Tech, a very solid squad. You know they're always going to be very good with head coach Frank Beamer there. It doesn't matter home or away. And you take your first home loss in a very, very long time. And that's all on Barrett. And I know he had 24 carries, 70 yards, and a touchdown. But got to be able to throw the ball. And when you throw the ball, you can't have 20 incomplete passes. That's not going to win ball games. So Virginia Tech does get the victory, 35-21 over Ohio State. Poor Lamar. Lamar took on number 9 Texas A&M and Kenny Hill. And Kenny Hill was all there. He was all there. 73-3. Game over. Before it even started. It's 21-3 at the end of the first. And then 31-3 at halftime. And Kenny Hill, 17 of 26, 283 yards and 4 touchdowns. 630 yards of offense for Texas A&M compared to 243 for Lamar. And Lamar had more time of possession, 34 minutes to 25. But, I mean, we all knew Lamar wasn't going to be able to do it. Northwestern State was on the road at Baylor. And with, I can't think of his name right now. Quarterback for Baylor is out. So a brand new guy comes in here. His name is Russell. Not Russell Wilson. And Seth Russell comes in the game. Starts the game off 16 for 25, 438 yards. An 81-yard pass was his longest, and 5 touchdowns. 5 touchdowns from a reserve quarterback. Now, and then they had a freshman wide receiver, KD Cannon, who's very, very highly touted wide receiver coming out of high school. 6 receptions, 223 yards, 3 touchdowns. Boom, boom, boom. Now, before everybody starts jumping on that bandwagon again, for Bryce Petty, that's the quarterback. Can't believe I forgot his name. He sat out because of his ribs or back injury, cracked ribs, whatever it is. Baylor, I just want people to know, they played Northwestern State, and then last week they played, some FCS school? So with all that, they're scoring the high points again, they're showing that top offense, a backup quarterback comes in, he throws 5 touchdowns, everything's all crazy and whatnot. Let's remember who they're playing. I want to throw that. I said it last season when everybody was all jumping on because they played Wofford, Buffalo, and some other small school, and they scored crazy amount of points. I just want people to know when they play an actual real team, you will see that this is not a playoff team. That is 100% for sure. Baylor is not a playoff team, and they will show who they really are. Now, their games coming up is at Buffalo. Yay, Khalil Mack's not there anymore, so it doesn't matter. Which is on a Friday at 7 o'clock on ESPN. Everybody can watch that. Then the next Saturday they have at Iowa State. Actually, I believe it's 2 Saturdays from there. I think they have a bye week after that Buffalo game. Now, at Iowa State game, now they did lose to North Dakota State, but at least this is a first real tough test. SMU was they're not the same squad this year. They're outscored 88-0 so far this season, so SMU's not a tough team. At Iowa State could show a challenge, but sadly, I don't think Iowa State can keep up with a little bit better receivers. So Iowa State, they almost scared Kansas State. It's not the squad. At Texas, now that, even though Texas getting blown out against BYU, on the road at Texas, Texas and Baylor has that little rivalry. Texas doesn't see it that way because they've always beat Baylor. But that'll show a tough test, and you'll see those points start to decline. And then they play TCU. Those points will decline because TCU's defense, I'm not being biased here, I'm just saying, TCU's defense will hold down this Baylor offense. And then they have at West Virginia. They're going to drop from there. Kansas, let's go a little bit of points. At number 4, Oklahoma. Who knows what rank they'll be by November 8th. Oklahoma State at home. Texas Tech at Cowboy Stadium. And then number 19, Kansas State, the last game, December 6th at home. So you're going to see midway through the season, towards the end, the real Baylor squad, and they're not going to be scoring the 70, 60 points per game, even 50. I'm just letting that out there. I just need people to know. I don't like when everybody just jumps on the bandwagons. But moving on, number 11, UCLA took on Memphis, and after UCLA got a win they probably shouldn't have last week against Virginia, they played Memphis squad looking to rebound, having Brent Huntley show his case for being a Heisman candidate and also to show that UCLA is a playoff potential team. They didn't really show that in my mind, and I think in a lot of people's mind. Memphis, this is a Memphis squad that really hasn't been good since, it hasn't been good in a long time. Brent Huntley, he did show a lot better game than when he played Virginia. He was 33 of 44, 396 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Had a receiver that had 110 yards on 4 receptions and 2 touchdowns. So it looked really good for UCLA stat-wise. But the final score was 42-35. Memphis started coming back with 14 points in the fourth quarter. That number 11 against an unranked team in Memphis should not lose, or should not be that close. If you're trying to show that you're a playoff team, you allowed Memphis 469 yards of total offense, and time of possession was nearly equal. UCLA has to get that defense in check. I believe the offense picked it up. So, Brent Huntley is showing his offense can score points. But if UCLA's taking on an Oregon squad, a Stanford, USC now, when they play USC, if this defense continues to play how they are, they will lose majority of the Pac-12 games. So UCLA, the offense, hey, you got it going again. That's great. Your defense is terrible. Got to get that changed real quick. Then Sam Houston State went on the road to play number 12 LSU. And Leonard Fournette, top running back in high school in the class of 2014, 13 carries, 92 yards, and has a touchdown. Now, very, very controversial here. As he scores his touchdown against Sam Houston State, it's a 4-yard run, not a 40, not a 14, a 4-yard run for a touchdown. I just want people to remember that. After he scores in end zone, he runs a little bit to the left and pulls something no freshman should do unless it's towards the middle of the end of the year and their team is doing, still undefeated or, has 1 loss, and he actually proves something. He pulls the Heisman pose. Now, this exploded all over Twitter. You see people saying, what is he doing? What is he doing? Who is this guy? Okay, yeah, you were the number 1 running back coming out of high school, but it's what have you done now and what are you doing in the league that you are in right now? High school doesn't matter anymore. And only 92 yards on 13 carries against a Sam Houston State squad. There should be a 1 in front of that 92 for you to even think about pulling a Heisman pose. And a 4-yard run, really? 4 yards? Does not cut it. Their wide receiver, Darrell, had 3 receptions, 140 yards, 3 touchdowns. Every catch was a touchdown. And quarterback Jennings, was 7 of 13, 188 yards, and the 3 touchdowns, all to Darrell. And LSU got to win 56-0. But Leonard Fournette, what are you doing? What are you thinking? Now, to me, the most surprising victory was number 14 USC taking on number 13 Stanford. And boy, this game, referees, I don't know. It looked like it was going a lot of USC's way. Now, I'm not saying USC paid the referees on this. I'm not indicating that at all. All I'm saying is it looked like they were more Trojan fans than there were Cardinal fans for those referees, because we had touchdown wide open. Kevin Hogan to, I believe, his tight end, wide open on the left side of the end zone. And everything's good. Stanford takes a 17, or what would have been a 17-10 lead in the fourth quarter, mid to late fourth quarter. But the running back apparently chop blocked. Now, to me, it didn't look like a chop block. It looked like one of those normal blocks that you see when a running back just blocks them at the knees. But I know, because there's a difference on how the chop block is. It wasn't a chop block, basically, but that's what they called it for. And a very, very questionable call. So that touchdown is taken back, and Stanford doesn't score. USC later on kicks the field goal, game winning. It's over. And then there's also controversial thing that happened with Pat Hayden. USC's athletic director comes down from the press box, argues with the referee because there's a penalty called on the head coach, Steve Sarkisian of USC, and I don't know. It's very crazy. Now there's questions of whether he should even be on the playoff committee because it's someone's biased. So I don't know. I think Stanford they did shoot themselves in the foot. I mean, they were in the red zone of I believe 6 times or something like that, and they only came away with 10 points. They had multiple of those being in the red zones. Had a fumble, a snap go way back. Ty Montgomery has to go back there, pick it up. And they're brought down. So Stanford, this was one of those games, if you're a Stanford fan, it's like the referee screwed us, but then you realize we were there 6 times in the red zone and only come away with 10 points. I mean, Stanford beat themselves. USC did not get this victory. That is 100% for sure. USC did not get this victory. It was Stanford losing. They beat themselves. Stanford beat their own selves. Kevin Hogan was 22 for 30, 285 yards, no touchdowns. Excuse me. Offensively, 413 yards for Stanford compared to USC's 291. But Stanford, 2 turnovers, USC, 0. 6 times in the red zone, 10 points. It's going to be something to remember for the Cardinals. Back-to-back years they have lost to USC, first time since 05 and 06. Moving on, number 15, Ole Miss takes on Vanderbilt at the Tennessee Titans Stadium. And it was all Ole Miss. Bo Wallace, 23 for 30, 320 yards, and a touchdown. 547 yards of total offense for Ole Miss Rebels. And Vanderbilt, Rivers, I believe his name's Steven Rivers. He's the younger brother of Phillip Rivers, quarterback of the San Diego Chargers, who played tonight. Bolt up, baby. He was 6 of 25, 60 yards, no touchdowns. Ouch. Vanderbilt only had 167 yards of total offense. Vanderbilt is not looking like the squad without James Franklin as head coach. And then the big game was Michigan at number 16, Notre Dame. It was all Notre Dame. I knew Notre Dame was going to win this. Everett Golston, I'm just putting it out there. He might be Heisman candidate. I'm just throwing it out there. He might be a Heisman candidate. I mean, you think about it. Freshman year, he takes him undefeated to the national championship. Now, yes, question whether they should have been there, and obviously shouldn't, by the way they got beat by Alabama. But a really good year for him. Then the next year, academically ineligible, cannot play. Notre Dame somewhat struggles without him. Especially at the quarterback position, they did struggle. He comes back to 2-0, dominant wins, and they just shut out Michigan for the first time since 1984. Golston was 34. I keep saying Golston. I'm sorry. Golston was 23 of 34, 226 yards, 3 touchdowns, no turnovers. Offensively, they couldn't get the ball. They couldn't run the ball at all. I mean, they only had 280 yards of total offense. Not good for Notre Dame. They need that in the 320s, 330s to make it look a little bit better. But no, I mean, I'm just saying Notre Dame might be a dark horse once again in this year's And this year, season, overall. 31-0, Michigan. Last time they'll play, and who knows when. Then number 17, Arizona State, traveled to New Mexico and just dominated there, 58-23. Western Illinois took on number 18, Wisconsin, and gave them a real close shocker. It was 9-3 going into halftime. Western Illinois. I even talked smack about Western Illinois on Saturday morning when I made my picks. But Wisconsin then pulled away towards the end, scoring 14 in both the third and the fourth, and get the victory with 456 total yards of offense compared to 162 for Western Illinois. But I think Wisconsin, even though final score is 37-3, I think this they should drop a little bit. I mean, again, a lot closer than what it should have been. And then the most exciting game during the day, McNeese State taking on number 19, Nebraska. I'm watching this game because really that was the best game on. I didn't want to see Oklahoma and Tulsa and whatever else game that was on that day. I just didn't want to watch anything. I just wanted to watch McNeese State because they were in the Southland Conference with Texas State back in the day. And Nebraska, I like their stadium. I like their tradition where they let go of those red balloons. That's awesome. And, of course, Tommy Armstrong Jr., quarterback, graduated from San Antonio Steel High School. And then, of course, the running back, Amir Abdullah, Heisman candidate, best running back in this year of college football, shows his stuff. Now, McNeese State forces Nebraska 3 and out, just like that, first drive. And then McNeese State goes and scores on their first possession, take a 7-0 lead. Just like that, and the stadium is quiet, absolutely quiet. And then it kind of went back and forth. Final score was 31-24. Nebraska escaping against McNeese State. And this is how close it was. If you haven't seen it, you have to go watch the highlights. Or if you have to watch ESPN app, go watch the entire game if you have the chance. It guarantee you it's one of the best games of college football this year. I know it's only week 2. I'm just saying. Tommy Armstrong, it's like the third down, takes a snap out of the shotgun and throws it to somewhat like a swing pass to the running back. I don't think it was supposed to be like that because there weren't any blockers. It was just, wide receivers running routes, whatnot. But quick swing pass to the running back of Amir Abdullah, and he just shows his strength and his speed all at once, and his cutting ability. Catches the ball, jukes through a tackler, and then just powers through 3 other tacklers at the same time. Spins around, keeps running straight, gets a block by one of his wide receivers, just throws his entire body to block the defender, and 20 seconds left, boom, scores a touchdown. Just like that. Nebraska beats McNeese State. What looked like it was going to go into overtime, Nebraska gets the victory. It was amazing. It was an amazing game. Tommy Armstrong Jr., 16 of 31, 242 yards, 2 touchdowns, and also 11 carries, 131 yards, and a touchdown. And Amir Abdullah, 3 receptions, 96 yards, 1 touchdown. It was a 58-yard catch for that touchdown. And McNeese State, they were dominating the game. 34 minutes, almost 35 minutes of time possession compared to 24 minutes. Very, very good. Turnover ratio was the same, 1-1. Very exciting game. Nebraska needs to get out of there. They need to watch themselves. Then number 20, Kansas State took on Iowa State. And Iowa State was getting beat at first, and then they came roaring back, but was shut out in the second half. Jake Waters, unbelievable job at the quarterback spot. 16 of 29, 239 yards, no touchdowns, but he had 20 carries, 138 yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns. And Tyler Lockett, of course, shows why he's one of the most talented wide receivers in college football. 6 receptions, 136 yards, no touchdowns. And Iowa State 0-2. 0-2 now, including the loss to North Dakota State. And then Eastern Carolina and number 21, South Carolina. South Carolina finally rebounds from the Texas A&M loss, but still gave up 453 yards of offense to East Carolina. So that defense is the weak point. Dylan Thompson, 25 of 38, 266 yards, and a touchdown. Mike Davis did show his ability again. He's healthy. 18 carries, 101 yards, and 2 touchdowns. But that defense needs to get in check. Then North Carolina went at it with San Diego State, 31-27. Clemson just absolutely dominated poor South Carolina State, 73-7. And check this out. 44 yards of total offense for South Carolina State compared to 735 yards for Clemson. Now, I know everybody predicted Clemson to win. They should have won this big anyway. They should do that. But, God, 735 yards of total offense to 44 for South Carolina State. Missouri took on Toledo on the road, 49-24. Matty Monk, 21 of 32 for 325 yards and 5 passing touchdowns. Very incredible game for Matty Monk. And Murray State went on the road to number 25 Louisville, and Louisville scored some points, 66-21 final score. And one thing I want to talk about, because they are not a ranked team, and sadly my TCU and Texas State teams did not play this week. They have a bye week this past week, but they'll play. Texas State plays Navy, and TCU plays Minnesota, very tough team. One thing I did want to talk about was, excuse me, Illinois quarterback Wes Lunt. He's a transfer from Oklahoma State. Threw for 500, almost 500 yards, if not 500 yards, Saturday, and then the week before it threw for 456 yards or something like that. Illinois is a top offensive team right now. Watch out for that team. Now, we spent about half our show already, which should be a full-length show at 30 minutes, just on college football. So now we'll talk about NFL. And, of course, Week 3 predictions for college football will be every Saturday morning. And we'll also do, I don't know if we can do, we got Thursday Night Football, don't we? I think so. So we'll do the predictions for NFL this week. But anyways, we'll do the predictions this Saturday morning. 8 a.m. Central Time here on Spreaker.com, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and YouTube. So check that out for the predictions. We got to wait until the actual top 25 comes out because it doesn't go by AP anymore. It goes by their different rankings or whatnot. Anyways, let's move on to the NFL, and we'll do some recaps. But first, if I can find it, there we go. Awesome. First, some injury news for multiple teams, and it's very bad. So if I name your team here, just cover your ears. Here we go. Kansas City Chiefs linebacker Derek Johnson tore his Achilles tendon against the Tennessee Titans yesterday. The team announced following Sunday's season opening 26-10 loss. He played in the Pro Bowl each of the last 3 years, and also starting defensive tackle Mike DeVito also ruptured his Achilles tendon. So both guys out for the year. Huge loss for Derek Johnson and the Kansas City Chiefs. And then recently acquired left guard Logan Mankins suffered a hyperextended knee in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 20-14 loss to the Carolina Panthers, according to multiple reports. Logan Mankins' status is unknown when he will return. And Houston Texans outside linebacker Jadeveon Clowney suffered a meniscus tear Sunday against the Washington Redskins and will be having surgery today. Clowney left the game late in the second quarter, but before leaving the game, he had one tackle for a loss of 9 yards on a reverse to wide receiver Deshaun Jackson. So a huge loss. That's the number 1 pick overall in the 2014 draft, and could be out 4 to 6 weeks. Some reports saying 4 to 6 weeks. That's huge. That is huge. And the defense looked pretty good. I know Washington Redskins, it was not the best offense, even though they're supposed to be one of the best. But it's a huge, huge loss. Now looking at drafting, maybe Johnny Manziel for the Texans probably look nice because that offense is absolutely terrible for the Texans. It's trash. It is trash. They will not win a lot of games if Ryan Fitzpatrick continues to play like that. Finally, Eagles offensive lineman Evan Mathis suffered an MCL injury. He's set to see doctors today to see how severe is the injury. And there is talk that it could be a possible torn ACL. So some people are saying MCL, some are saying ACL. Obviously, head coach Chip Kelly does not want an ACL tear. This is what he said to the Philadelphia Inquirer, saying, quote, "From what I understand, it's not a Jeremy Maclin situation where Evan is done for the year. We just need to weather the storm." That's all he said. So huge losses for all teams, the Eagles, Texans, Buccaneers, and the Kansas City Chiefs. And with that, we'll move on to our Week 1 recap of the season. And Saints taking on the Falcons. Very close games. Drew Brees, 29-42, 33 yards, and a touchdown. Marquise Colston, 5 receptions, 110 yards. Awesome job. And Matt Ryan, how about Matt Ryan having a Falcons passing record, 31-43, 448 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Julio Jones, 7 receptions, 116 yards, no touchdowns. Awesome job by Atlanta. Their offense is amazing. But both defenses for the Saints and Falcons, ouch. That is very, very scary. Went into overtime. Falcons get the victory, 37-34. Saints defense just let it slip. I mean, this game could not have gone overtime. And Saints defense, if they could have just pushed a little bit more on their blitzing and everything else, pushed them out of field goal range, and Falcons wouldn't have happened. The Saints defense let me down. I picked up the Saints defense. I don't know why. I didn't draft any good defenses. Fantasy woes. Moving on, Vikings against the Rams. Mike Zimmer's first game as head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, and he does an incredible job. 34-6 was the final score. Matt Castle, 17 of 25, 170 yards, 2 touchdowns. And Cordell Patterson, 3 carries, 102 yards, and a touchdown at the wide receiver position. Not too bad. And guess what? I sat him on my fantasy. Ouch. Yeah, I lost because of that. And then, who's this? Quarterback Davis. What's your name? Austin Davis started out for quarterback. 16 of 23, 192 yards. Just like that, Rams already have a new quarterback. Never heard of you. But obviously, Vikings, too much to handle. But Adrian Peterson, nothing for me. 75 yards. Nothing. That's nothing in fantasy. The Browns getting smoked against the Steelers 27-3 at halftime, and then come back to tie at 27-27. Brian Hoyer started off terrible, then rebounded as well with the team. 19-31, 230 yards, and a touchdown. And Terrence West, the rookie running back, 16 carries, 100 yards, no touchdowns. But Ben Roethlisberger was just on point. And Antonio Brown, another top wide receiver, 5 receptions, 116 yards, and a touchdown. Le'Veon Bell, 21 carries, 109 yards, and a touchdown. Steelers were too much to handle towards the end. Get the field goal late at the game. 30-27 final score. No Johnny Football. No Johnny Football in the game. Said they were going to have him in there, and he did nothing. Not one pass attempt, not one rushing attempt. Nothing. So I don't know if that was just a thing to get the Steelers, on their heels or what, but no Johnny Football. And honestly, they could have used him in the first half. And how about them Jacksonville Jaguars? 17-0 at halftime over the Philadelphia Eagles. We got one of the top offenses, actually the top offense in the NFL last season. Looked like the Jaguars actually, might be a solid team. Chad Henne, 24-43, 266 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Toby Gerhart, his first game as the Jacksonville Jaguar, 18 carries, 42 yards, no touchdowns. Eagles came back. But the 2 touchdowns for the Jacksonville Jaguars, this is a guy to keep your eye on, both for fantasy and just to watch out for. Undrafted wide receiver from Miami who broke some records at Miami. And we all know what other top wide receiver went to Miami. Michael Irvin. He broke some of his records as well. Allen Hurns, wide receiver for Jacksonville. 4 receptions, 110 yards, 2 touchdowns. I'm picking him up on my fantasy, best believe. But final score was 34-17. Jacksonville was all first half, no second half. Eagles second half came back. LaShawn McCoy, 21 carries, 74 yards, no touchdowns. Nick Foles, 27-45, 322 yards, 2 touchdowns. And Jeremy Maclin, it looked like an Oregon's offense on that touchdown that he scored. It was I don't know what it was, about 40-something yards, I think. Just blows by the entire defense, wide open in the middle of the field. 4 catches, 97 yards, and a touchdown. Eagles, they're getting that offense going again. Oakland Raiders and the New York Jets. Derek Carr showed his case as a starting quarterback for the Oakland Raiders. 20 of 32, 151 yards, 2 touchdowns. McFadden, 4 carries, 15 yards. No touchdowns. Not good running game for the Raiders at all. They are the worst rushing team right now in football. I know it's week 1, but I'm just saying. And Geno Smith, excellent game, even though I think he might have thrown an interception. He was 23 of 28, 221 yards, and a touchdown. And then Chris Ivey, 10 carries, 102 yards, and a touchdown. Eric Decker, his first game as a Jet, 5 receptions, 74 yards. And let's see, yes, he did throw an interception, Geno Smith, but only 5 incomplete passes. Not bad. 402 yards of total offense for the New York Jets compared to 158 for the Oakland Raiders. But Derek Carr, he did good. He did good for his first game in the NFL as a rookie. But they didn't get the victory. 19-14. Jets get the W. Bengals and the Ravens. Andy Dalton, 25-38, 301 yards, and a touchdown. Giovanni Bernard, 14 carries, 48 yards, no touchdowns. And AJ Green, 6 receptions, 131 yards, and a touchdown. And what about Steve Smith Sr.? He showed he was not a senior there. 7 receptions, 118 yards, and a touchdown. But the Bengals get the victory, 23-16. Buffalo Bills and the Chicago Bears go overtime. Bills get the victory, 23-20, after leading 17-7 at halftime. E.J. Manuel showed that he was a completely different quarterback from preseason to now. 16 of 22, 173 yards, and a passing touchdown, and a rushing touchdown. Did have an interception, but hey, let's look at the bright side for the Bills right now. What else? Fred Jackson, 7 carries, 61 yards. Robert Woods, 4 receptions, 78 yards. Jay Cutler, 34 of 49, 349 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Matt Forte, 17 carries, 82 yards, no touchdowns. 8 receptions and 87 yards. Again, no touchdowns. Alshon Jeffrey, Brandon Marshall, where were you guys? Bills' defense was very, very good. Redskins and Texans, 6-17. Texans get the victory. Robert Griffin, 29 of 37, 267 yards, no touchdowns. And Alfred Morris, 14 carries, 91 yards, no touchdowns. Didn't get the job done. Arian Foster, though, 27 carries, 103 yards. Did well. But Redskins need to be able to score. They got 372 yards of total offense and 30 minutes of time possession, but only 6 points. Not going to get the job done. Titans, that was probably the shocker. Titans beating the Chiefs 26-10 at Kansas City. Jake Locker, 22-33. 266 yards, 2 touchdowns. Alex Smith did not look good at all. 19 for 35, 202 yards, and a touchdown. Also had 6 carries on 36 yards. Not good if he's your leading rusher. You know that things weren't working out. And 3 interceptions for Alex Smith. Not good. Titans do get the victory. Patriots and Dolphins. This was the other upset. Dolphins get the victory, 33-20. They shut out the New England Patriots in the second half. Just Brady, not there. 29 of 56, 249 yards and a touchdown. Not good. With having Darrelle Revis there, Mike Wallace, 7 receptions, 81 yards, and a touchdown. Darrelle Revis did not do his job. Noshawn Moreno, 24 carries, 134 yards, and a touchdown. Ryan Tannehill, 18 of 32, 178, 2 touchdowns. Now, when I was watching the pregame shows for CBS, and it was talking about Tom Brady, and also Fox did one, a special for Tom Brady, I believe, talking about, is he on a downslide? And I never thought about it. Everybody was saying all this stuff about Tom Brady, how he's on a downside, and he's just not doing good. He's towards the end of his career. But I don't know. It started to make me think that 29 to 56, that's not Tom Brady. Losing to the Dolphins isn't Tom Brady. But the good news for the Patriots, the last time they lost their season opener was back in 2003, and I think they won the Super Bowl that year. Yeah. So maybe it's not bad losing the first game of the year. Panthers against the Buccaneers without Cam Newton. Doesn't matter. Derek Anderson, 24-34, 230 yards, and 2 touchdowns, including to the rookie Kelvin Benjamin. 6 catches, 92 yards, and a touchdown. But 3 turnovers for the Tampa Bay is what got them to lose the game. 20-14 was the final score. They will have Cam Newton next week. 49ers, Cowboys, for a team that didn't score a touchdown at all in the entire preseason, the first team squad for the 49ers did not score a touchdown at all in preseason. They scored 21 points in the first half, 3 touchdowns in the first quarter, It was 28-3 at halftime, and then it wasn't even close. Even though the final score was 28-17, it wasn't close at all. It wasn't like that. 4 turnovers for the Dallas Cowboys, including 3 by Tony Romo with the interceptions. DeMarco Murray fumbles on the 3rd play of the game. He did have 22 carries, 118 yards, and a touchdown, but Dez Bryant was just not there. Tony Romo, he looked rusty, and now I guarantee you the Cowboys, I even tweeted it, Cowboys regret not drafting Johnny Manziel. I mean, you drafted an offensive lineman and thinking he was better than Johnny Football. Your offensive line still looked terrible with him. Imagine you had Johnny Football. Could have gone in there. Kabam. You never know. Could have surprised everybody. We didn't think that Colin Kaepernick was going to be that great when he came in for Alex Smith. Look what he did. Maybe Johnny Football could have been that story for the Cowboys. Man, just like that. 49ers 28-17, and it looked more like a home game for the 49ers as there is nothing but red shirts and jerseys all across Cowboy Stadium. And then Jerry Jones has the audacity to say, I didn't see that many 49ers fans. Are you kidding me? It was filled with red. Very, very bad. Cowboys could be the team. Cowboys and the Rams could be the team that go with the number 1 draft pick, back-to-back 1-2 in 2015 draft. And then finally, the last game, Indianapolis Colts taking on the Denver Broncos, and 24-7 at halftime for the Broncos. Julius Thomas, 7 receptions, 104 yards, 3 touchdowns. That almost carried my team to victory. Almost carried it. But my fantasy team, but I lost by 3 points because Jamaal Charles, 19 rushing yards. Thank you, Jamaal Charles. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm glad that I can rely on you. Wow. I spent my first round draft pick on Jamaal Charles for 19 yards. Amazing. But let's get back to this game. Andrew Luck, 35-53, 370 yards, 2 touchdowns. Trent Richardson, 6 carries, 20 yards, no touchdowns. Reggie Wayne, though, looked like there was no injury that ever happened. 9 receptions, 98 yards, no touchdowns. Peyton Manning, again, just on spot. We all know what Manning's going to do. 22 of 36, 269 yards, and 3 touchdowns, all to Julius Thomas. And Monty Ball, 23 carries, 67 yards, and a touchdown. Colts, 2 turnovers were costly. I mean, they had more total offensive yards than the Denver Broncos by a lot, 408 yards to 361. But 2 turnovers is what hurt the Colts' comeback because it's 14 points in the fourth quarter. Could have had it. Final score 31-24. Broncos get the victory. And where are we at? Oh, my goodness, 45 minutes already. Ouch. All right, well, let's move on. Let's do our quick predictions because there's a Thursday night game. We'll do the other picks on Saturday along with college football. So let's get the Thursday night pick in because we won't have a show until Saturday. Pittsburgh Steelers at the Baltimore Ravens. Pittsburgh did get the victory over the Cleveland Browns. Very close game with the field goal at the end. And the Baltimore Ravens don't look so good against the Cincinnati Bengals. I was getting thrown off here. AFC North already going at it. First 2 weeks. Kabam. Just like that. While everybody else is playing different people from different conferences. From different conferences. AFC North is just like, nah, we ain't about that. We're just going to play our division rivals just like that. First 2 weeks. That's crazy. But anyways, let's see. I'm going to go Pittsburgh Steelers 17, Baltimore Ravens 14. It's always a low-scoring game between those two teams. So that's my pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens. We'll have more picks, of course, on Saturday. But that's it for today's show, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. We will be back next Monday morning for the actual Short Sports Show. Follow me on Twitter at @short_sports 24/7. Download today and past podcasts on iTunes. Just type in the Short Sports Show. And if you're listening on YouTube, iHeartRadio, or here on Spreaker.com, make sure you give it a like and share it with all your friends and family. Become a fan on Facebook. Did I already say that, Short Sports Show? I believe so. So I will be back. That's Mondays are the show days. Saturdays are prediction days. So if you want to hear the predictions for college football and the NFL, come back Saturday morning, Spreaker.com, iHeartRadio, iTunes, YouTube. It'll be up here. 8 a.m. Central Time. Short Sports Show predictions. It's going to be exciting. And hopefully my San Diego Chargers get the victory tonight. Remember, friendly reminder, set your DVRs if you haven't already, unless you're at work. Sorry for that. But if you have time, set your reminders for Monday Night Football tonight. The New York Giants at the Detroit Lions. That is the first game, I believe, at 7 o'clock Central Time or 6 o'clock Central Time. And then the San Diego Chargers on the road at the Arizona Cardinals. 9 Central Time, so that's awesome. I get to wait till 9 o'clock just for the kickoff and then a bunch of commercials. But bolt up, baby. It's the regular season. I'm excited. I know you guys are. I will see you guys next Monday and Saturday mornings. The Short Sports Show. I will see you guys then. As always, God first, God bless. I'm out. Peace.